10x your service design offering with Smaply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smaply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smaply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
Welcome to the Doing Design podcast on This Is HCD, hosted by all the world's best live design and innovation trainers at thisisdoing.com. The Doing Design podcast focuses on all the behind-the-scene things related to actually doing innovation in design, such as design research, facilitation, prototyping, visualization, and it's a great sounding board for the likes of service design, user experience, content design, product management, business analysis, and so much more. In this episode, you'll hear from myself and our wonderful Agile expert at This Is Doing, Daniela Decker. We chat about the common misconceptions about what it means to do and to be Agile, and cover off parts where things get a little bit weird when it comes to the interpretation of what it means to be Agile and agility and so forth. Let's jump straight in. Guten Morgen, Daniela. How are you?
Hi, Gerry. Guten Morgen. I'm really good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm learning a little bit of German. I figure when you work with a team of Germans, it's always nice to have a little bit of German in your vocabulary.
Like at least the basic formal words that everyone can build upon. Yeah, awesome.
I think everyone should learn another language. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, so I think German might be a good stop for me. But come here, we're going to be chatting a bit more around agility today, what it means to be agile. So, you know, I'm going to ask you, because within This Is Doing, you're our agile expert, shall we say. Organizations and their addiction to becoming agile, where does that come from?
Well, I mean, all the organizations now, they're facing severe need to change, right? So basically every CEO understands now, okay, we need to get more flexible, we need to get faster. So everyone has got these agility topics on their company agenda. But very often I've got the feeling that no one really knows what happens if you really want to go down that road. So there's a lot of myths, a lot of confusion, a lot of buzzwords, and that's kind of tricky when it comes to agility.
Is there sort of a miscommunication of what it means to be agile out there? Because I've read the Agile Manifesto years ago, and when I go into organizations, I go, well, we're working agile, and we use Scrum, and I'm like, okay, there's lots of different terminology that seems to be very kind of closed and just accessible to a few. Not everyone seems to, one, understand the original intention of what it means to be agile, and two, all this language that is kind of spurred off the back of it can be quite difficult for people to get their heads around.
Definitely. So, I mean, it comes from software development, right? That's where Scrum evolved, and everyone's now in the organizations, everyone tries now to get pieces of that, right? So to get the effects of those methods and scaling them to other parts of the organizations, or even use parts of the agile methods for change projects. So I often find a lot of myths, a lot of miscommunication, and what I really miss in all those agile topics is the discussion about the values that are behind the Agile Manifesto, and also the principles. So if you really get that into organizations, implementing those values in a good and contingent way, then it's quite easy for companies to get more flexible and the positive effects of the agility methods. But most of the companies now just look at the methods, think if they implement some Scrum, Kanban, or whatever methods, then agility comes by itself, and it actually doesn't. And that's what the big problem is.
Yeah. Like organizations can buy a couple of agile books and hire an agile coach. And in my experience, they kind of go, okay, we're doing it because we've got this knowledge in the business. But what does it mean on a day-to-day basis? So what does an agile organization look like?
I mean, that's my answer to that question, right? But if you're managing to implement those values on a really good way on team level basis, right? The agile values like transparency, respect, all of that. If you're managing to implement those on a day-to-day basis so that the team knows actually how they interact, what the scope is, and how they actually evolve over time. So working agile is a lot about inspect and adapt, right? Learning, developing, team development. So if you get that down onto team level and the team has really got like the self-organized spirit so that they can take decisions, then it works. But in most organizations, this doesn't really happen. So the freedom actually to take decisions, the freedom to evolve, to learn, to all of those things, it's not really lived that way. And that's why the effects are not coming up. So you can't see them because it's not built into the whole ecosystem of the company in a good way.
It seems like the rituals that go alongside the agile framework are there for a reason to try and enable the verb of being agile.
Yes.
And very rarely do I see those rituals can be seen as kind of control and command in many instances. So where is the disconnect happening, and who is causing it?
I think the company cultures, right, that haven't like built agile into all of the levels of a company, right? That's where the big roadblock comes in, because there is some mid-management level that wants to have control, that wants to really understand what's happening, that wants to know when projects are finished, right? And if you're really working agile in that way, it's not always that easy. So that's where the disconnect happens between the team level and the management level. So in many ways, agile methods are built in. The rituals like the daily stand-ups and so are built in. But I just very often feel teams are just repeating those rituals, not really knowing why they're doing it and what's the effect that they actually want to get out of those rituals. And that's where the myths and the misconception comes in, right? Because someone on mid-management level is then asking you, what's happening in those daily stand-ups? Or have you done a retrospective or whatever? So that's where the big disconnect happens in my point of view.
So where does that come from, that whole kind of the disconnect? Does it come from the person as part of the team, or does it come from the management side of things? Who can actually change how that's actually working?
I often compare agility like to taking over responsibility. It needs two sides, right? So agile is all about self-organization and teams that take over responsibility.
Self-organization.
Yes. So if teams want to take over responsibility, right? So it needs two sides. It needs the management level that actually drops the ball to the teams, right? And the teams then actually take over those stuff that they need to do, right? And really like commit to the things that they promise to the management. So it needs two sides, or like trust, management trusts in the teams, right? And the teams that actually are committed to their work and to the stuff they are doing. So this is both sides, and this is very often where the disconnect happens. So teams that sometimes have a fear of taking over responsibility, or management level that is not like really giving teams permission to actually take over decisions or implement stuff. So there's where the trust is lacking.
Yeah. I mean, trust is a huge thing, right? And it's definitely, you know, something that we have placed at the center of This Is Doing whenever we're building the business. Trust is 100%, it has to be earned for a start, okay? But I see the importance of trust because off the back of that, respect is associated. Like, you know, I trust you to be able to do these things and so forth. But within organizations, I see sometimes leadership kind of going, well, we trust our people to do these things. And then they display the behaviors off the back of it that show that they don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that kind of erodes any of the kind of self, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like where they can actually go ahead and achieve it themselves, and they have to ask for questions and ask for permission in the future and so forth. But self-organization is at the heart of what it means to be agile for me. To be able to, you know, do something and get it done, trust needs to be within the mix as well. Mm-hmm. What are the contributing factors that organizations can look at to help build trust? Like what do they need to focus on?
Well, I mean, the whole process of team development is a huge factor in that piece, because self-organization, right, happens within that team in the first place, right? So at that point, it really needs to, the team needs to be enabled to take decisions, to disagree, to give each other feedback, right? And that builds trust over time. So there's a lot about team development in the Agile piece. So that the team actually builds trust over time and knows how to resolve conflict and to reflect and to like really, evolve and develop a good team spirit over time. So that's one piece. And I often feel that's missing in the Agile discussion. It's sometimes a big method discussion, but the team development piece is missing. So that's the one piece.
Yeah.
And if it comes to management, right, you can ask yourself, if you're a manager, a mid-level manager, and you're giving your team permission to do stuff, so you can ask yourself, so where's my role in that whole game, right? So that might be a tricky question to solve in the organization. So trust needs to come from management levels as well, so that you know you're being needed, right? When the team is evolving over time and gets like more self-organized and does their work themselves. So it needs, for management level, it needs to be really something, where they know, okay, if I like develop my team and if I help them get better, there will be a place for me in the organization, even if like my role won't be needed in the future anymore. So that's one piece as well.
Okay.
And that's a tricky one to answer.
Yeah, it is kind of hard. One of the other pieces that I'm keen to get your opinion on is the fascination to run in sprints and the sprints being fixed in time. Am I right in saying that in the Agile Manifesto that, you know, if you're working at 3-week sprints and so forth, and they're like, okay, time's up. We're like, oh, if you only had an extra couple of days, we could actually achieve a lot more and so forth. There was this inflexibility happening. Well, what happened there? Well, where does it get all a bit weird?
Well, I mean, the sprint helps you like really getting something out into the market on time, right? And if you look at projects, I mean, in the companies not working with Agile, like the deadlines are always like getting like pushed further and further and further. So, right? The sprints are trying to solve that. And of course, I mean, there's a lot of discussion then. Could we use up more time, or could we like change the length of the sprints? But it's intended, to like solve that problem of bringing something to the market and then also learn again, not only like delivering stuff, but also learn again, reflect again where we are as a team, what do we need to do better? So, in my experience, it's a good way of working because you're really not like putting your head up onto things that are like not relevant to achieving your goal. So you're really bringing something out into the market, getting feedback in again. So you know actually that you like working, or that you've been working on something that's relevant. So that's why I'm a big fan of that. But of course, there's always that discussion.
another thing where I'm saying where it gets a little bit weird and funky for me is the way it's been used tends to just be like a machine, and it's just keep on ticking over. Whereas this pressure and this whole kind of addiction to shipping and demonstrating our time X, equated to this and so forth, but taking a step back and kind of going, okay, the retrospection and the reflection piece is often not done. I've worked in teams way back in Australia where it was just like, it was relentless. And it was having an effect on the team. We're like, okay, cool. The sprint would end on, say, like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're like, okay, cool. And then we might do a retro on a Thursday, and we're like, okay, it would be nice if we just had a bit of a calm day to play pool or just go for lunch and celebrate what we've done. Nah, straight back into it.
I get that.
And I see that's kind of like a respect piece that comes from the organization. They're like, no, we're bringing you in, you're doing your work, work harder. And like, don't be smiling when you're working. that kind of approach. And I don't know where that came from, because I don't feel that was part of the original Agile manifesto.
Yeah, I totally agree. So there are two sides to it. First of all, like using that Scrum framework, and the Agile manifesto underneath it, there's a big piece of self-organization and actually like pull factor, meaning that once you start getting into the sprint, like talking about work and talking about the stuff that needs to come in that sprint, so that actually the power is in the team to actually say, right, we can do this or that in the sprint, and we might want to have some time to actually reflect or whatever, right? Because we need it as a team. And I often feel like that whole piece of like pull and the power to the team is not something that happens in reality. It's just something that's written on slides. So that's where it might come from, like the conception of like pressure and delivery pressure and all of that. So and that's kind of where the tricky side of agility is. And if it comes to retrospectives, right?
Yeah, my favorite part of the retros. I always loved retro because I can point and go, "You did that, and that annoyed me. Don't do that again."
That's always the thing, right? So that's actually the technique where the learning happens, right? But that's also where conflict happens, right? And that's also, so you need to have a really good way of working within your team that the retrospective is effective. Otherwise, team members are just not showing up any longer to retros, right? Or I also had teams that they don't even do the retros because of time, but they just do the retros maybe when there is a problem. So whenever that email comes with the invite to the retrospective, right, everyone in the team is like, oh no, there is another problem. So I don't want to attend this meeting any longer. So that's not how it's intended.
I mean, the retros in organizations where they don't have a psychological safe space are very, very dangerous spaces to be in for people.
Yeah.
And it's too often, it's never really considered. I'm like, where else other than this room where we're going to have this retro are you allowed to do that stuff? And typically it's not. So, and if you're in one of those environments or one of those organizations, it's kind of, the retros are very superficial. They're just like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything was fine. I mean, what advice do you give to people who are in organizations like that? Because that doesn't help anyone when they just stay quiet and they're going to go, everything was fine. Like, it was fine that you emailed me at midnight 2 nights ago and telling me I'd lose my job if I didn't do this. That was fine. It was okay. I didn't need sleep. What advice to give to people like that? Because the retros are so important, and to me, they're never really given the credence that they deserve.
First of all, I'm not someone who is implementing Agile in a way of a dogma, right? So I'm quite open. So meaning the team I'm currently running with
Yeah.
If we think that a retrospective at this point doesn't make sense, or even if I'm asked to moderate a meeting and I've got the feeling that we are just doing those retros to like tick the box, right? Then I'll be really then I'll just skip those meetings. Then I'll tell people, well, just save your time, do something that makes more sense.
Yeah. How have you seen it happen online? Because with the whole global pandemic, it's harder to do it in a more of a psychological safe space. I remember I worked with a brilliant person. I'm going to give him a shout out, Alani Haman, who is down in Cochlear in Australia. When I worked in, we worked in a great project together. Alani was a big fan of the walking retros. And we'd go out and about and we'd sit in the park. And I'm like, does this make it any better when I have to start pointing the fingers at, like, you know, team members? And you know what it actually kind of did? When you're sitting amongst trees and you're talking about stuff and walking around with your team, it felt a little bit easier to open up. So that was one approach that I liked. But I guess you kind of find it hard to do that now within the global pandemic. So how are you seeing the psychological safe space piece being adapted to online?
Well, first of all, the psychological safe space, I mean, I don't have many teams that I would consider psychological safe, right?
Yeah,
so it's
true.
a concept that is out there in the books, and Google is implementing it heavily, right? But if you look into teams and the conflicts and all of that stuff, if you really dig deep, not many teams are psychological safe spaces, right? So if you got that up and running before we went into the pandemic, so the team I'm working on had that kind of
respect.
Yeah, that kind of respect and that kind of closeness before. So we actually managed really good in the pandemic because everyone then was also able to open up about their fears, about the problems they have, like caring for their children or whatever, right? So that helped, like, surviving the pandemic, right? But if it hadn't been there before, it's like really difficult to build that remotely.
And it's harder for new starters then if they're working fully remotely. I just did a coaching call there with somebody before the call, and they've been working in a role for coming up to about 11 months. And they've never met any of their team members, and a lot of their team members don't like to turn on their webcam. And they're like, so it's literally just a voice in their headphones. And I said, it's really difficult. You know, I'm living miles away from them. Don't know what they're like. You know, we're not even connected on LinkedIn. It's hard. It is a harder time for organizations to build this kind of approach.
Yeah, definitely. What we did is also did kind of for special meetings or when we really had stuff to resolve. We did also meetings outdoors and having a walk and discussing the stuff then, or also the classical yearly reviews and stuff, like also doing that outside, and so that you can actually meet.
Yeah.
And having some time together.
Yeah. We're a big fan of the word essentials on This Is Doing, in case anyone hasn't figured that out. There's Journey Map Essentials, which is the one I run, and you've got was it Agility Essentials or Essentials of Agility, which is nearly sold out. It's in December. But who fits the kind of target for that kind of course, and what would they get out of it?
We are aiming for the participants to really understand, like, what's beneath all of those agile methods. You'll get methods, right? But also looking deeper into the values and how to actually work in the agile practice within teams. So if you're sitting in an agile team, if you're working with agile teams, it helps you to really understand the baseline of agility, but also what mindset needs to be implemented, what is the value and the principles underneath it, so that you can actually reflect on the status of your team and may also spot potentials for your own teams to evolve, to change. So that's our aim for that course.
Yeah, it's on December the 1st. I think it kicks off. So there's a couple of spots available to join Daniela and Ole, also in Germany, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Look, Daniela, it was always great to speak with you. If people want to connect with you, I'll put a link to your LinkedIn post as well, and also put a link to the course as well. Folks, if you've got any questions for us about anything to do with Agile, I'll put a link in there so you can email us a question. We'd love to, carry on the conversation and what it means to be Agile in your organization. How are you doing it? So feel free to drop myself and Daniela an email, and we'd love to hear from you. Daniela, thanks so much for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So there you have it. If you like this episode, feel free to visit thisishcd.com, where you can access our back catalogue of over 100 episodes, with episodes related to service design, product management, design research, and much, much more. Now, if you're interested in design and innovation training, feel free to check out our business, thisisdoing.com, where you can join online classrooms and learn from the world's best design and innovation leaders. Join the This Is HCD newsletter, where you'll receive updates from the network, and also, if you're interested, apply to join the Slack community on thisishcd.com. Stay safe, and until next time, take care.